Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here with you today. Can you hear me well enough? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me get my notes ready. So just a little introduction about myself, who I am. My name is Julio Martin Kowane. I'm more known publicly as Rootwords. I'm a rap artist, a hip-hop artist. I've grown up in Switzerland. I was born in the States, in Connecticut. My parents are Zambian. I've lived in Zambia, in the States, in London, in Australia, in France. And yeah, music is my life and life is my music. I play with a live band called the Block Notes, and I recently released my first debut album called The Rush, which is right here. We can talk about it afterwards. And well, today the topic is freedom. And I'm going to go through this process by asking 3 questions. What is freedom? Where is freedom? And how do you attain freedom? So, start with the first question. What is freedom? People often define freedom in terms of their perceived restrictions. These perceived restrictions can appear in various different forms, either political, religious, physical, monetary, environmental, legal, etc. The list goes on. The perception of freedom varies from person to person. The individual sitting next to you might appear to have a similar notion of freedom as you do. However, I can almost guarantee that if you were to ask him or her to elaborate further on their understanding of freedom, you'll quickly discover the inconsistencies which differentiate his vision from yours. For instance, I grew up in a family of 7. 2 parents, 5 children. Our parents raised us with the same governing idea of freedom. However, as grown-up individuals today in our respective lives, we have different notions of freedom. Check this. I was born in Connecticut, USA, which makes me an American citizen. That gives me the freedom to travel to France or Austria for a particular number of days without having to get a stamp or a visa in my passport. My youngest brother, he was born in Zambia, Lusaka, which makes him a Zambian citizen. And that restricts him from traveling to France or Austria without the proper stamp or visa in his passport. That's just an example of legal or political limitation on one's freedom. Let me give you another one. I'm an artist. So essentially, I'm free to get high or drunk when I'm on the job. In Switzerland, I can even grow a certain amount of marijuana at home and smoke it with little to no legal consequences. Heck, as far as you're concerned, I could be stoned out of my mind right now. My big sister and my younger sister are lawyers. One lives in Australia, the other lives in London. They do not have the freedom to grow marijuana at their home or smoke it or get high on the job without facing the worst imaginable legal and professional repercussions. By the way, I should maybe point out at this point that the general notion of freedom that my parents bestowed on us was not about legalizing marijuana. Quite the contrary. My dad is a doctor and my mom is a nurse. Anyhow, my other brother, living in London, is married and has 2 kids. He, like me, is an artist, although he's a graphic artist, a tattooist. And he has had to take on another job in order to provide for his family, whilst I am still free to stick to my one job while I can still afford it. And also, I'm not married, so...
Any single ladies?
Bear with me for a second. Think about this and ask yourself, are you really free? When you woke up this morning, didn't your alarm clock remind you of the limitations? Don't your monthly bills dictate, control, and curb your spending habits? Isn't your agenda the blueprint to your personal prison cell outlined in a little pocketbook? Are you at liberty to walk into this conference room in your pajamas or your nightgowns? When you vote, aren't you restricted to only a handful of choices? I think you understand what I'm trying to get at. The notion of freedom is one that is inherently embedded with so many restrictions that are relative to the individual in question. Let me take it even further. The concept of collective freedom is an illusion. Maybe only a fresh newborn baby with no notion of freedom at all is truly free. But even then, there are physical restrictions. So then you might ask, where is freedom? Well, ladies and gentlemen, freedom is in the mind. If you were to strip away all external factors, distractions, morals and ethics, you might achieve freedom. I read somewhere the other day on Facebook that people live 3 lives: their public life, their private life, and their secret life. The latter is that in which we're concerned or interested, the secret life. That is where you might achieve ultimate unrestricted freedom. Probably not absolute freedom, since we are always bound to the experiences and that have molded us to be who we are. But like I said, it is probably the closest to actual freedom we can get to while we're on this earth and in our human bodies. Allow me to elaborate. There's a song from the 90s R&B group called En Vogue. The song is called Free Your Mind. The lyrics for the chorus went, "Free your mind and the rest to follow." Free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. In the song, they say things like, if I have straight hair, that doesn't mean that I want to be white. Or if I listen to hip hop, that doesn't mean I want to sell drugs. Or if I date a white guy, that doesn't mean I don't love my black brothers. They suggest that being free of prejudice and limitations can be achieved by first freeing your mind, then the rest to follow. En Vogue was suggesting that freedom is defined by breaking down the norms of perception, breaking down those same environmental restrictions and limitations which give us tunnel vision and stifle creativity. I believe they were right. In relation to creativity, this is the type of freedom you wish to achieve: mental freedom. Here, you can achieve everything and anything, be it positive or negative. And in doing so, you will not be arrested, judged, or ostracized. We might live in a 1984 George Orwell-esque type of Big Brother society, but thankfully, we cannot yet be prosecuted for a thought crime, so long as you keep it a secret. If you can imagine it, you can achieve it. William Arthur Ward. But when you process those thoughts and want to bring them to life, remember that you will be once again forced to adapt that mental freedom to fit into the limitations of your immediate environment. Did you watch The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with Ben Stiller? Well, that film is filled with a whole lot of unrealistic stuff that was going on in his head. The protagonist spent the majority of his time in his mind, But ironically, his constant, unrestricted daydreaming eventually led to him achieving his most unfathomable goals. This brings me to my third and final question. How can we achieve and apply this mental freedom in a practical way in our day-to-day lives? Well, like any living thing of value, you have to nurture it by giving it time and space to grow. I remember when I was in school, my 4th grade teacher would say, "Hey, stop daydreaming." What better way to cancel my freedom? I guess I wouldn't have been caught if I was paying attention. Essentially, there's a time and place for everything. We must dedicate some of our day-to-day lives to experiencing and exercising mental freedom. It is meditation, training the mind to induce a particular mode of consciousness, time for reflection, composure, and mental stimulation. For at least 30 minutes a day, to maybe even an hour for those of us who are lazy, you should be free. Free from your telephone, free from the internet, free from the news, free from your nagging husband or wife, girlfriend or boyfriend, free from your worries, your job, occupations, etc. One's consciousness needs to be explored, wherein you might discover absolute freedom. That is how I work. I meditate to retain a stable mind state and elevate to a plane governed by no state. That is where I choose to entertain my thoughts and where I find my inspiration. I'm a daydreamer. People are always asking me, "What are you looking at? Are you lost? Come back, Julio. Your Skrilla is jet black." I get that every time I step in a zone. That creative mind state is my home, where I'm all alone. It is a place of infinite possibilities. It is Alice in Wonderland. It is stepping outside of the matrix. It is a place where I'm not confined to any man-made guidelines, where my sensory organs are operating at peak condition, where there are no limitations, where I am a rocket scientist. Up in here, I can travel the world, the universe, and beyond. It is where I am invincible. And when I come back down to earth, I seem to know all the answers. Society teaches us as individuals to stay in line and conform. What it cannot teach us is how to be free. That you have to learn for yourself by deconstructing everything that you have been taught. Lauryn Hill calls it miseducation. I interpreted that as her definition of freedom. In conclusion, I'd like to finish off with a verse I wrote about 5 years ago when I was in London. The song is called Freedom, and in it I explored the fact that even though times have changed and as a black person I am apparently more free than ever, I am actually not. This is how it went. Hey yo, I'm still at the back of the bus. The weight of my watch still reminds me of cuffs. Fashion cops got me wearing 80-pound boots and gold on my neck, weighing me down to keep my face on the deck. See, I forgive but cannot forget. When I put in my request for freedom, they asked, cash or check? I took the cash and cashed the check. That's when the value of money went down, bank liquidated to the ground. I was 19 going on 35 and I'm still surprised I managed to survive. See, I was burnt by the Great Depression. By now you would have thought the system should have learned its lesson, huh? But it has a strange way of rearing its head, yeah. Never in control, it's steering instead, yeah. Still shackled by chains and monetary restraints until the day it lets go of its reins. So, give me back my freedom or I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Some time for some question now, so please raise your hands. This is the microphone now.
I will take the freedom to kiss you.
So who has a question? I have a question. I can start. Yeah? So the thing is, my question has to do with freedom and safety. I think most people are not free because they are afraid of something. And nowadays you have a lot of policies that change freedom for safety. You know, they control you, they film you, they know everything you do, and they say you're safer because of that. How do you feel around that? Do you think it's a fair exchange?
Well, yeah, I think, I mean, the restrictions are there. We cannot remove them absolutely. But like I said, there's three kinds of lives you can live: the public one, the private one, and the secret one. And if you can separate that in your way of being, then you can find freedom. You can be a public person, but still be private and still have your secrets. You can feel like you're not. You can feel like you're not so people are not really entering into your life if they don't know those other aspects of you. So regardless of the strict restrictions around you, you can still create freedom up here.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Julio. A question exactly about that, though. I mean, I consider real freedom being the ability to take our secret life and make it public. I mean, there's a freedom of not being judged. So in that sense, even if we do have the freedom to say things in public and have a private life and have our own secret life, isn't real freedom letting all that go and making it just one life?
Yeah, of course. If you're absolutely not afraid of any of the consequences, that is real freedom. I can't deny that.
Someone else? I have plenty of questions.
You've obviously been around in different countries, a lot of different countries. Have you found that you've been had different aspects or different kind of situations where, regarding freedom, for example, or your music, where it's better accepted than other places, or I don't know if that's
yeah, no.
clear.
I understand your question. I've wherever I go, it's something, you know, like in hip hop is very patriotic. You have to represent a hood, a town, or a particular spot. And I was never like that because I was born in the States, but I don't really feel like I'm from there. I'm Zambian, but I haven't lived long there. I'm Swiss, but at the same time, I'm not a Swiss citizen. I lived in Australia, and when I was doing hip hop there, it's like, cool, but you're not from here. Same thing as in London. I'm rapping over there, and they're like, you're an American or an English guy trying to rap with an American accent. It's not cool. So wherever I went, there was always a problem. You know, like because of these perceptions, these limitations which people have. You know, their understanding which they place on a particular culture or situation. And I've always been confronted with trying to break those down by actually being myself and not conforming to their agenda.
We get to hear any of the music.
Well, you have to buy the album. That's the best way.
You want cash or a check?
Go for cash.
Since we're talking about freedoms and you are an artist, what are your beliefs about copyrights and freedom of information, freedom of sharing one's art without, you know, piracy? Just give us your lowdown. Would you ever consider giving for free your music, for example?
Yeah, I did that all the years before I started working with my label, Kinyama Sounds. That actually was the first time I was respected as an artist and someone actually paid for my music. Before that, I was fine with giving it for free, but when it came to like me having to make a living out of it, that had to stop for it to be a reality. But sharing was the initial stage, sharing with as many people as I could of my music. But unfortunately, for the people who discover me just now, they're going to have to pay for everything they want to hear. I can't change that. They should have come back, you know, like 10 years ago. Maybe they could have had some music for free.
How do you feel that you're affected? Because as an artist, when you have your freedom of your mind, you have all your ideas, you put them out there, and then it gets warped by the restrictions of society. So how does that affect you? Like, do you feel like you put your music out and do you feel you're conforming to society in some way, and then does that re-affect your music in the cycle?
No, I think that the moment that it's been recorded and it's been you know, pressed and it's on CD, that's from that moment when it's in the shops, it's out of my control. I cannot dictate how many people are going to buy the CD, whether people are going to like it or not. So I expressed all my freedom before I went into the stage of it being diffused to the public. So at some point, I don't really care what happens, you know, or how people perceive it, because for me, I was free in the initial instance. Maybe if there's a whole lot of negative backlash and people misinterpreted what I was trying to represent, maybe then I'll be concerned. But I don't have that problem.